My friends, before we start, a disclaimer for you that all of the sources I mentioned in this video are in the description below, so go and do your own research before making up your mind. We have another case of Russian miraculous interception of Ukrainian drones, and I'll tell you all about it. For that, we'll zoom into the Russian city of Kursk. It's a big city right north from Ukraine, and there's an airfield right here. We'll zoom into it, and oh boy, there's many juicy targets here. Many planes, many choppers, and before the war Russia even held their nuclear bombers in these airfields. Our area of interest is the northern part of the airfield, this one right here, and all of these planes. You would think they're not present anymore because the war is going on, but you would be wrong. They were present. Ukrainian counterintelligence attacked this airfield with at least 16 drones, and among the target list were 4 Su-30s, 1 MiG-29, S-300 radar complex and 2 Pantsir S air defense systems. Already an extremely juicy packet. If this was a steak, it would be a juicy, moist, medium rare deliciousness. Russian Ministry of Defense themselves claim that they only shot down 3 of the drones, and the locals report at least 13 explosions. So we can say 13 drones out of 16 connected to their targets. Or perhaps Russians were again using their futuristic new air defense systems, which includes intercepting Ukrainian drones with their planes. Yes, it's genius. You have 4 Su-30s on the ground. You have Ukrainian drones coming. You don't want to maintain these Su-30s because it's quite tedious and takes a lot of resources, and you need to build out your villa. So you take these Su-30s on the ground, we can see them right here, and you intercept Ukrainian drones with these very same planes. The Ukrainians don't know what hit them. They're losing their drones left and right, and I don't have to maintain my plane. It's a genius Russian way of doing things. We haven't gotten to the very juiciest part yet. You know, with the steak, there's this a little bit of a fatty part, and then there's the crust. We're getting to the crust. This here is perfect. Why the steak analogies? I don't know. Russian officials on the ground in Kursk report that this was the very first time Ukraine used, listen to this, cardboard drones to attack them. These were cardboard Kamikaze drones made by the Australian company Saipak. It's a genius military startup that uses cheap materials like cardboard to make the drones incredibly light and mass producible. These drones can lift from 3 to 5 kilograms, which is not much. The warhead of 5 kilograms is not the biggest one, but it's definitely enough to damage planes, military planes, if you hit them straight on. These cardboard Kamikaze drones can fly up to 3 hours, and the distance is 40 to 120 kilometers. This makes this satellite image even more juicy because the Russian genius air defense strategy involves using their Su-30s to intercept and destroy Ukrainian cardboard drones. A genius strategy. It's so advanced, no country in the world has even thought about it yet. And it works, because these 16 Ukrainian drones are destroyed now. My friends, today I want to tell you about ground news. This comes in the light of this mysterious death of Yevgeny Prigozhin and Dmitry Utkin on their Wagner jet. Immediately when this happened, I knew there is going to be different narratives, different agendas behind publishing, behind the title, so we're gonna look at ground news, the news comparison site, to see how this news is covered and who pushes which narrative. The perfect example about this is jet crash in Russia kills 10, officials say. Wagner chief was on the passenger list. Now let's see the news articles that cover this story and where are they leaning, left or right. As we can see, right-leaning articles say Wagner chief Prigozhin or just Wagner leader Prigozhin. Now we go to leaning left and immediately there's mercenary group leader who revolted against Vladimir Putin. This one word can add so much to the title. And if I keep scrolling down, there's plenty of articles and I can find the center ones to read for myself to get my information when I make the updates. Here on the right we can see the bias distribution and see 42% of the sources are near center, which is where you want them to be. Of course, one of the most important things is factuality. 32% mixed factuality and 66% high factuality. Anything other than high factuality I'm not even opening. At the time and location you can of course see when the boom actually happened. 3 days ago and kaboom, here it happened. And you can see Every news outlet is going crazy. This is a click magnet. Everybody wants to push this story. This very specific jet crash topic was last updated 1 day ago, and it has a total of 501 news sources covering this specific story, which is an insanely high number. A great place where I can get a lot of information for my videos is news about Ukraine war. I mean, this has everything and it's very easy to compare them. If I clicked on this news, I found out Putin actually complimented Prigozhin for being an excellent businessman and a good friend. To compare coverage on this story and more, make sure you never miss an update. Go to ground.news/Artur, subscribe through my link in the description below so they know I sent you, and get unlimited access for just $5 a month. Thank you to Ground News for sponsoring today's video. We haven't gotten videos like this for a long time. This is a Russian BMP2 captured by the Ukrainian troops. This happened a lot in fall of 2022. If I mean a lot, I mean that Ukraine got an entire new army group filled with armored vehicles only from capturing Izium. They went into Izium and they came out with 400 additional vehicles. Unfortunately, these fun times are over, and every now and then we get a video like that of Ukrainians capturing a broken down Russian BMP2. What the Ukrainians don't know is that this is another Russian genius strategy. See, this BMP2 is garbage, as they are. They're old, they need to be maintained a lot. Half of the time they don't work properly. So the Russians don't want to maintain it, and it's a hindrance on the battlefield for them. They just want to drink and smoke in peace. So they leave this BMP2 for the Ukrainians to take. But what the Ukrainians don't know is that they will now have to maintain this vehicle. Oh, it's a silent killer. Maintain it day and night and it still breaks down because it's made in Russia. It's genius. Russians get rid of the headache and Ukrainians need to now maintain their new vehicle. What a weapon. Now, my friends, we're gonna go through a thorough analysis of the Tokmak axis, where the tempo of the battle has changed. Ukrainians have deployed their 82nd Airborne Brigade there, which is said to be the best Ukrainian brigade, best equipped. And they also have the 47th Brigade pushing from Robotine. What has changed? What's different? And a lot is. And what is the outcome of this axis? Because you could say this is the weakest Russian defensive point right now. Both sides know it and are focusing in the area. Let's see what's up. As I see this red line here, this is the Robotine settlement right on the southern side of this blue line. And as you can see, this red line is anti-tank ditches and obstacles. This is the very first area in the entire front where Ukrainians have reached the main Russian defensive line. Anti-tank ditch and Dragon's Teeth. Behind it is infantry fighting positions, which are mostly trenches, and we'll go through them later. As you can see, Ukrainians have not yet penetrated through it. They have not pushed through it yet. Let's see how could they do it. You can see from this photo that these anti-tank ditches and infantry fighting positions, which are right next to each other, we're talking trenches and Dragon's Teeth, right next to each other, it goes throughout the entire southern front mostly, and it's 2 layers deep, as you can see. In some areas 3 layers deep. Ukraine has reached the first layer, first defensive line right here, and the local commanders said that this defensive line actually is a lot weaker than people think, or that military commanders have anticipated. The toughest area was around Robotine, the most heavily mined area. I'll also show you on this map, because you can see the names of the settlement. This is Robotine, this is Verbove, Nova Prokopivka, and this is the first defensive line. Ukrainians are right next to it, not pushing through it yet. Now you see Robotine, and immediately south from it, Ukrainians have not pushed past significantly from the urbanized area, because you see these white lines right here. Well, here they are. This is one of the better equipped Russian defensive lines, part of their first trench line defending the southern front. We have well dug out trenches. These are not poorly made. These are extremely well made, connected with communication trenches and possibly even drainage. Communication trenches go to the tree lines. There are dugouts for vehicles which can be converted to artillery positions. There are living quarters on the ground which are semi-safe from artillery bombardment. If you can see the entrances from these trenches and these steel elements right here are the roofs, you can tell that all of this field is filled with bunkers of sleeping areas for men. So this trench is manned. Robotine is right where the red arrows are pointing, and this is immediately south from Robotine, and it's part of the main defensive line and it goes east like that, zigzagging across this tree line, and Ukrainians do not want to charge against this steel wall. Instead, there is a weaker position, and we'll get to it. These are two outcome or two possible directions of attack Ukrainian forces could take. The bond blue line on the left is the one we just analyzed, south from Robotyne, straight to Saladna Balka, which is defended by the main defensive lines. Now this road leads straight to Tokmak, as you can see, and it's one of the more heavily defended roads in the area and definitely very heavily mined. If Ukraine chooses to take this axis, it will be a bloody path. Second option is to assault these defensive lines they have already reached near Verbove. It's a little bit east and north from Verbove, and this white line right here. And as you can see, after breaching this defensive line, anti-tank ditches, there is also infantry fighting positions. And after that, it's empty ground until Ocheretuvate. And after that, it's empty ground until the Black Sea. Let's go back to the first possible offensive axis, Solotka Balka, right here on the very difficult road to Tokmak. Solotka Balka, defended by the first Russian defensive line. It is right here, and we can see the defensive line. Here are dragon's teeth. Almost the entire southern front is first covered with these dragon's teeth. Before that, there's an anti-tank ditch, which means even if you go very fast with your BMP, BMD, BTR-4, you will not fly over this ditch. It will get stuck. So this will need to be filled out or use some kind of a bridging machine to make it able for armor to cross fast, because these areas here have a shot-in artillery positions from the Russian lines, meaning artillery is precise and immediate. Under fire is what I want to say. Behind the anti-tank ditch and the dragon's teeth immediately are infantry fighting positions and well dug out trenches, not straight lines. They have communication trenches going to the back. They have vehicle shelters and they have living quarters. This is a well built and fortified defensive line, incredibly hard to breach. If it's manned, that's the very important part. Here we can see a photo right immediately after the village, on the road to Tokmak, and we can see after the village there's also trench lines. So it's many layers of trench lines on the road to Tokmak, because it's one of the main Russian logistical centers of the southern front, meaning they are heavily defending it. This is the main road to Tokmak, and as you can see, most of the trench line have fire positions right onto the road. It would be impossible to force this road with armor. It's possibly mined also. Assaulting these trench lines straight over the fields, I can already see these heavy losses. But now, my friends, let's look at the satellite photos from this trench line west from Verbove, the second Ukrainian possible attack assault direction, which is in a lot worse than conditions for the Russians. Let's see why. We see anti-tank ditch, we see the dragon's teeth, alright, check. As you can see, there are no communication trenches, we don't see any living quarters. It's just one big zigzag line and that is it. We have some dug-in vehicle positions. Overall, a lot more lightly prepared position. There are also forest belts right here. You can fight throughout these forest belts for cover. I mean, trees offer some cover until artillery takes them out. But if you breach through this zigzag trench line right here, there's nothing behind it, except for more fields and forest belts. No additional trenches in the deep. I mean, even manning these trench lines, soldiers would have to run from their accommodation bunkers from far away. There's no sleeping areas here. If we look at the topographic map, we can see that all of the areas that Ukrainian forces are facing south of Robotyne are on a heightened ground. I mean, Russians are not stupid. They have built their trenches on a heightened ground, but these are not extreme elevations. These are just small bumps on the fields, and of course they're picked for defensive positions, but it doesn't make much of a difference. Now this is the hybrid option that Ukraine could take. Not from the Verbove area, not from Nova Prakakivka, but in between those two, force the Russian defensive line and then spread the bridgehead, widen the bridgehead, push as much infantry and armor through that small gap, and then strike to the south, and as you can see, empty ground, infantry defense lines and empty ground. If Ukraine breaches this first Russian defensive line fast enough, not allowing Russians to build additional defenses in the depth, pushing forward fastly, widening the bridgehead within days, the advancements will be incredibly fast, because there's nothing in this area except for fields. No trenches, no defensive positions. Now Russians know that this is their weakest area and they have already reacted. We can see 108th Airborne Assault Regiment here. We can see 56th Air Assault Regiment. These are the Saintnik forces, or one of the best elite forces Russia still has. They have been deployed into this southern front from the Kupiansk. See, about a month ago, Russia launched this huge offensive from the Kupiansk direction, and this has bogged down. Ukrainians have managed to stop all of the advancements. Russians have taken heavy losses. And since there is a serious threat of Ukrainian breakthrough through this weakened Russian defensive line, they have deployed their best reserves into the area and they're arriving right these days. So the window of opportunity for Ukrainians is not weeks, it's days in this area. So it's going to be interesting in the next coming days. Now, my friends, another news from St. Petersburg. This is Al Jazeera reporter Rehi reporting in Arabic from the memorial of Wagner in St. Petersburg. There is a Russian man standing in front of her, confronting her for not speaking Russian. And later we found out that this reporter was sent to hospital with a concussion. This man beat him up, he beat a woman up for not speaking Russian. Russia as a society is becoming more close and more paranoid. And what does a society which is suffering and burning and hurting and paranoid, what do they do usually? If we look at history, what do they do? Well, first of all, they start blaming the outsiders, the scapegoats, which usually is the immigrants. And in Russia, there's nothing different. Russia has very strong nationalistic agenda. The propaganda is very nationalistic, and of course it takes the form of beating up the immigrants, forcing them to speak Russian. And also, in this video, actually, Russian immigrants who have gotten the citizenship. These immigrants are from Middle East. They have gotten the Russian citizenship. They are handed out invites to come to the military enlistment offices, to be sent to the front, to be sent to this special military operation. These immigrants are forced as cannon fodder to the fronts. The Russian government has given them a legal right to be citizen of Russia, to work there, to gain wages. There have been promises of better life in Russia. Come to Russia from the Middle East. You will see how good people live, not in the West, but in Russia, and then they're forced to go to the fronts. I see this as persecution on ethnic minorities. Russia is already doing that in Russian minorities, like the Mari people or the Udmurti people, the Finno-Ugric people, the Buryats, the Far Eastern people of Russia, the non-Russian people, the Asian people. They're mostly sent to the front first. Now they're doing that to the immigrants. And this is only the beginning of what might evolve into something very ugly. We saw what happened in the 30s in Germany, where a suffering state chose a scapegoat and they acted out on their anger. The same thing is now starting to happen in Russia. My friends, now I want to thank the patrons, the people who keep this channel going and who have been supporting the channel for some 4 years. But today I'll read you the newest ones and I'll butcher their names. David Reuteler, Hans Günther Hermann. There couldn't be any more German name than yours. Richard Hickley, Villo Eck, Pekon Facke. Thank you to these patrons for supporting the channel. And if you like the channel, you know what to do. My friends, check out my Instagram. Link is in the description below. I share stories of what I'm doing in my life. Also, some gun content coming up in there very soon. Stay tuned for it. And until my next video, my friends, stay cool and bye-bye.